James, New South Wales Liberal leader Mark Speakman. I wish he would speak less.
Well, Rowan and Rita, I got to say, normally on this show we often kick off with Rita bringing us the latest outrages from Victoria, but it seems like New South Wales has gotten a bit of the Victorian disease, and I can confidently predict that with Mark Speakman as opposition leader, coalition leader in New South Wales, Chris Minns, the Premier, is going to be Premier basically forever. He has come out and said, in the face of all of the polls which show that by huge majorities, Liberals do not want the voice, but in the face of polls showing us that the voice indeed is failing with most demographic groups, and in the face of polls even showing that in teal electorates that was released today that the voice is failing, Mark Speakman has gone and bought the government elbow line on this hook, line and sinker, saying, oh, well, because things haven't worked before, then we need to do this whole new separatist bureaucracy, which is, of course, insane. It doesn't make any sense. And I'll tell you what, Liberals in this state are going to feel like Victorian Liberals very quickly if they keep getting told, we don't care what you think. We're going to go with the woke, lefty, Matt Keane model of everything.
Rita.
Particularly stupid because some of the polling that's been done, even polling done by Labor types, shows that only 7% of coalition voters are rusted on yes voters. So why you would be pandering to that 7% instead of looking at the 93%, and also all those undecided voters, Labor voters, minor party voters who are not pro-voice, who are there for the taking. The coalition need to begin to understand those inner city teal electorates, that's not their heartland anymore. The heartland is in the suburbs, it's in the regions, that's where the masses are. They're the people who Labor have walked away from with their values. These are socially conservative folks who really don't have a political party that represents them, a mainstream political party that represents them. And instead of seizing on those people, those aspirational Australians, they are focused on this inner city, elite, affluent mob who are leaning left.
Well,
that's the trend in the UK, in the US,
let's
and
cut
right
to the
here.
chase. This character, Speakman, is unfit to be the Liberal leader in New South Wales. He hasn't learnt from the Matt Keane disaster. The Liberals have got to understand you only win when you oppose Labor. That's what the Liberal Party has to do, oppose Labor. And if this clown running a Liberal Party in New South Wales doesn't understand the lessons of the last few years, he's unfit for the job. Punt him and put someone in. Get Libs. How many times do we have to tell you? You go down the woke route, you lose, you lose, you lose. And if that's what you want to do, great, follow Speakman. Follow Speakman into the wilderness. As James says, Chris Minns may as well sit back. Doesn't matter how many mistakes Chris Minns makes. He's stuck there forever unless the Liberals get a leader who opposes this Labor insanity, James.
And I mean, the thing is, too, is that in a sense, New South Wales is luckier than Victoria because Chris Minns is actually, for a Labor person, very, very sensible, and I think much more sensible than this Speakman guy. This is just, as you say, Rowan, you're absolutely right. If you do not take principles and good, firm Liberal principles, which has to be opposing this sort of creation of a new, bolted-on, racially separate bureaucracy, and buying into all of the lines of the Albo government and all of the activists who go out and say, oh, well, because everything we've done before hasn't worked, we have to do something radical like change the Constitution. And the key to this whole thing, which nobody on the yes side has ever been able to answer for me, Albanese, everybody else out there goes, oh, but this means that government will listen. I'm like, guys, are your ears painted on? There's nothing in the Constitution or the law stopping the government from listening already. They've got a huge $4 billion bureaucracy.
We've already got hundreds of bodies, advisory bodies, Indigenous bodies that the government listens to. And look at the outcomes. So why would we want to have more of that enshrined in the Constitution, unaccountable? You can't change it, what's in there. Look at the Victorian Libs. I mean, you think the New South Wales Libs are confused? The Victorian Libs, apparently only one of them is committed to a yes vote. That's Jess Wilson in Kew. So Kew voters, take note of that. John Pasuto still doesn't know what he thinks. I mean, we've only had this debate running in the country for more than 12 months and the Victorian Liberal leader has no idea. But worse than that, Rowan and James, worse than that, the Victorian Libs went to the last state election backing a treaty. a state-based treaty, and now they're not sure about the voice. How can you back a treaty and not back the voice?
Yeah,
it is such an incoherent,
and Queensland's
idiotic decision. Yeah. It's like saying, no, Rowan, I don't think I want to go on a date with you, but I will marry you right now. What are they thinking? So no wonder they're in absolute tatters at state level, because they have no idea who they are and what they stand for.
Sorry, James, just going back to this Speakman character, his claim is, oh, well, the outcomes have been so bad for Indigenous Australians that, oh, yeah, we may as well try that. That ain't leadership. Let me just tell you, Libs, that ain't leadership. I don't know what to do, so let's just roll the dice and try something else. That is not what leaders are made of. I don't recall, Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan sitting around going, haven't got a clue what to do about the Falklands. Oh, I don't know. I haven't got a clue what to do about the mine. Oh, I don't know. What should we do? Oh, let's try this instead. No, you see, leaders lead. Leaders have inspiration. Leaders have ideas. Now, Mark Speakman, as the leader of the Liberals in New South Wales, you should be having ideas about how to help Indigenous people in New South Wales with policies that you create by going out yourself and listening to Indigenous Australians. Maybe go out where the dirt is red, sit there for a couple of weeks like Tony Abbott used to do. Maybe learn something, then have an idea, then come up with a policy and then put it to the people and make sure it's different to the Labor policy. That is how leaders lead, Mark.
Well, we had one of our Liberal leaders just on this station in the last hour, Susan Ley, who is the Deputy Liberal leader, mainly because I think she's a woman. I don't think she came to that position because of her accomplishments. And also the best Liberal women tend to be in the Senate, so she got the job. And
no, the best Liberal women, get punted.
Well, yeah,
whether it's Moira Deeming, Catherine Deeves, whether it's Amanda Stoker, whatever, they get punted.
They get punted, but her position, try to make me understand here, James and Rowan, they're opposing the voice. Susan Ley early on was pretty shaky on the voice, but now she's in opposition, fantastic. But we're going to have this legislated regional voice. Well, what are they taking to the next election exactly here?
Well, I don't think that this makes any sense. I understand there's sort of a bit of rhetorical gamesmanship that they're trying to play with, but it seems like a real misstep.
Spell it out.
It's the idea that you would have legislated voices rather than one in the Constitution.
No,
but
thank you.
Legislated regional voices
and
a constant.
But it's all. But you know what? Here's the thing, though. It's silly to get down in the weeds of this stuff because you know what? The vibe of this whole thing has just completely failed. The whole Albanese project on The Voice has failed because nobody likes it. Everybody gets that this is not a good thing for the country, that you should not go around changing the Constitution. There's a real separatist vibe to this whole thing, which nobody likes. It's about grievance and all of this other stuff. The whole debate we saw play out this week about whether or not the Uluru Statement is just 439 words or 26 pages. And by the way, it is the longer document. I'm sorry, and Megan Davis, you have confirmed this yourself in many speeches about this, so let's not have that argument. But it's almost worse, though. It is almost worse, though. The point that Albo is trying to make, and all the voice defenders, the voice truthers, I guess you could call them, saying that it's only one page, they're literally asking us, the Australian people, to go and vote to change the entire way the country is governed off of a 439-word statement. I mean, that is actually arguably far worse than going and saying, no, this is the 26-page thing, and, it's all out there, and we can debate and spell out everything that's in there.
Worse than that. And it's not just Megan Davis who said that. Pat Anderson, who's the Uluru co-chair, who was on the ABC saying it's one page. No, we've got footage of her, which we played this week, saying it's 18 pages. So what is it? I mean, try to just at least stick on the one story. But that single page, that one page, that 400-odd
it's damaging enough.
Words, read that and see if you're happy with it. Because that one page, far from being this loving, conciliatory statement, as the Prime Minister claims, is a militant statement. Yeah, it's a statement that has got untruths. It's a statement that is really got nothing in there that's conciliatory towards wider Australia. It's all about grievance. It's all about demands. So that one page in itself is an issue, but then to try to rewrite history and suggest Every time they've told us it's a much longer statement was untrue, what they're saying now is the fact. And anything other than that is a conspiracy theory. Have you seen how they've adopted the far left's, you know, the Remainer strategy, the anti-Trump strategy of anything they say is a conspiracy theory.
This is why, Rita, I call them voice truthers. But I mean, the thing is, if you go and you look at that longer document, there's so much in there that is really disturbing. And in one version, it even talks about a percentage of GDP in compensation. So, come on, I'm sorry.
It's there on the NIA
you know why
website.
They don't want to talk
it's
about
one document on the NIA website. It's there for you to see. It's 26 pages long. The detail is there, and the detail fleshes out what the opening page says.
But
I mean, it's very clear.
The shorter version talks about treaty.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're going to have a treaty, you're going to have reparations, and those reparations need to come in some form, whether it's a percentage of GDP, whether it's a lump sum,
whether it's fees to people doing consultancies.
The bottom line is, if you vote yes, you are voting to paying taxes in perpetuity of some form or other to Indigenous Australian bodies, not to Indigenous Australians, but some kind of obscure bodies. That is guaranteed. That is, if you read the statements, the 26 pages, it's in there somehow or other, whether it's land taxes, whether it's a tax on your salary, whether it's a tax on both, whatever it is, you will end up paying. So if you vote yes, you are paying for you are voting yes for you and your kids to be paying some kind of reparations for now until eternity. And understand that when you tick that yes, you're committing your kids to that as well.
And we saw in WA with those Aboriginal heritage laws how they were defended. They were, no, these are absolutely sound. Anyone complaining is a bigot and
racist,
and pushing misinformation. Guess what? They've done a U-turn on those because, in effect, they are highly destructive, highly costly, and you couldn't do that if it was enshrined in the Constitution.
Of course not.
You can't have a U-turn. It's in the Constitution. You're stuck with it unless there is another referendum, which we're not going to see. We know that. So
well, this is why
this
is, as James said, this kind of weird strategic thing from the federal Libs this weekend was silly, quite frankly.
What are they thinking?
You oppose something by opposing it. You're saying we're saying no because it's racist. That's it. End of conversation. Don't need any more details. You've had your chance. It's a no. But to come out, oh, we want a bit of this, we want a bit of that.
We want to be half pregnant.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, exactly. No. It's a nonsense.